and not the, or you can just sew right into the cape and you don't even have to sew into the dress. I mean, anything you feel like doing is fine. Or so if you brought something and you want to sew it, or you want to sew this into it. But I'm just going to start. And if any thought comes into your head too, don't feel like you have to be quiet. Like you were saying, Kara, how that song was going through your head, or something like that.
Well, sewing is not one of my things. I can do a button, but the fabric that I brought is it's came from a shirt that has been my favorite mushroom hunting shirt since I've been in York County, and it finally succumbed to the edges of time. But it's also almost a chenille, like it's on bedspreads.
Oh yeah.
And so it was special to me for a couple reasons, and even though the very hard water had made it orange, I just hung on to it because it's been special to me, and I think hunting mushrooms has been a spiritual practice for me. Both my maternal great-grandmother, her name was Ophelia, and I never knew her, and the history of her is largely unknown in my family, but I do know that she was full-blooded Cherokee, and she was taken from her people, and again, I don't know a lot of the history, but she married my grandfather, and even though she was a very educated woman, she was always in the shadows, and I know from my maternal grandmother that she hid her heritage, and she would compliment my grandma Virgie for how white her skin was and encourage her to stay out of the sun and keep her face protected. And Grandma Virgie would also, I remember her on a couple of occasions commenting to me on what pretty skin I had. And as I've done work on healing, I've spoken to this great-grandmother that I didn't know and asked her to show me things in the woods. And I think mushrooms has been one of these things that just tells me again and again about the abundance that is in our world when we're open to it. And it's also just the kind of beauty that can come from decay. And so I would like for you to sew a little bit of this into your
Oh, thank you so much. May I have the scissors, Coleen?
Mm-hmm. That was a lovely story. I had your awesome. Trail of Tears.
I think that she
Yeah,
has been speaking to you.
They all have that trail.
Or through you, or... Yeah, I think the stitching helps me to, oh, okay. The stitching
really come over here.
helps me to keep coming back because it's so... It's so powerful to hear a story like that, and then I almost don't know what the next step is. You know, like, do I relate to it? Do I thank you? And I also know you a little better, and I also, well, when I looked at my hand stitching and listening to you talk, it reminded me, just come back to the being, because that's all there is. That's all there is. And I think something like that happens when you're hunting for mushrooms, or you're stitching a cloth, or our bodies are remembering something that they've forgotten, but have always known. And our ancestors are just there, dying to tell us. And I used to plead to my ancestors because I thought I was somehow unworthy, and that they, were so wise and spiritual. And somehow I felt small and unworthy compared to that. And my ancestors told me that it wasn't that at all, that they needed me to remember in this body for them. That's where they're calling out to us. That's why they keep trying to connect to us, because they need us. And we're not small and unimportant, we're needed. And it's a huge responsibility, but it's also it's the greatest joy. And it's finally not being here for nothing. So, or for the fear. Thanks for sewing that in.
I'm making a face, and it's a smiley face. And I also put a pin here, and this is from my mom. So, yeah, I do have to probably take it off. So.
We'll cut it off so you'll have it attached to a piece of...
Okay, that would be awesome.
It's everything that...
But I put the smiley face, and it was because my mom was probably one of my best mentors ever in my life. And that's why she's here, right here. I ran upstairs to find her, and I have my stuff all over the place. It took me a little longer to get back down because I wanted her here, because I just knew that she needed to be here. But I do think that we need to know that we are, if what we want to see in the world, we have to present ourselves in that way. And I don't mean by false smiles, because false smiles are nothing. But when you feel that internal happiness from inside, that you need to show it, because so many people need to see it and absorb it, and they need it. So my mom was really good at doing that. She was a really good, and her life wasn't always easy, as I know. She had some really hardships, but she was always there to be that example of not a false smile, but well, maybe it was sometimes, but it wasn't always that great. I don't know what I'm saying. It's just what I'm trying to say is that she knew how to pick herself up and say, all right, that shit happened to me. I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to continue living and doing. And when we were talking about suicides and things of that nature, I think we have to just keep on, you know, life is a valuable gift, and when we shortchange it by, in any way, shape, or form, or not show happiness for what it really is, you know, it is a gift, and we should be happy and pleased and show it. So I guess that's why I have a smiley face.
I feel like when I stitched here, I was stitching Carrie's grandmother, and now I stitched your mother. Or your grandmother.
It was my mother.
Your mother.
My mom.
Your mom. And yeah, I mean, I wonder, I like that they're here with us now too.
Mm-hmm.
And entering the Cape. I was going to call it my Cape, and it's kind of my Cape, but it's the Cape and the cloak that I had said earlier that I realized how much I had cloaked my truths in structures that made them more understandable or digestible or acceptable to people around me. And now the cloak is being woven with the threads of something that is not that, something that is coming directly from our hearts and our truths and our grandmothers and our mothers. And maybe some of those ancestors that we never met and we don't even know who they are, but they're still trying to connect with us. And this cloak that once to me represented how I disguise myself in order to be accepted in the world is now the cloak that I stitch in order to gain the power that was always there. So I guess it's not gaining, it's to see the power that is in each of us. And it's not because, it's not the kind of power that like someone talks about when they say, oh, look at me, I can punch this guy in the face.
Ego power.
Or, yeah, it's
It's
the power that is coming from these grandmothers and these mothers and not just women, but because at the moment this feels very feminine in its nature, I think it is a lot of women, because I think it's a lot of spirit that has been also cloaked and silenced that needs to speak.
Should I just leave that? I didn't mean it.
Oh no, it's fine. There's no wrong.
If I don't like it, I can cut it.
You can always cut it out. Yeah, and I mean, you can see how much I've cut. Like, this thing in the end is probably going to be just nothing but, like, maybe the wires, because they are harder to cut. Everything else that's left might be all just shreds and pieces and fragments. And I'm going to pick one more color here.
You know, it's amazing because the ones of us, those who have children here, and how we're also doing that right now as we exist, we're passing our energies down to them, and they are having to deal with some of our stuff that we are passing, even this energy right now that's present. Do you know what I mean? So we can even have the power to help them even now as we're living beings.
I think we
yeah.
it's our
It
responsibility.
is, like I said, I know, you know, that's what I meant, that responsibility, that like, yeah.
It's like this elder said, creation knows even if you don't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, creation knows God. You know, when people are even their false self, I mean, there's no false self with source. You know, it's an illusion if you think that you're hiding from anything, right?
Yep, whether you believe it
They're
or
not.
not.
It's there. It's still there.
It's still.
And it we're in a time where it can't be hidden anymore. I don't claim to have the answer to what that is and why that is, but that I can see with my own eyes. Is that there's no height, like nothing. From the smallest thing, like someone trying to steal a nickel to someone trying to lie to us about the nature of their very position in standing or power or no, there's nothing that can be hidden.
Nothing that can be hidden.
So what I find beautiful about this experience is for generations women have been coming together with sewing. And what did they do when they made those quilts? Or what did they do when they made those blankets?
They used to use them as a code to know that this is a house you can hide in.
Yeah.
For the Underground Railroad.
And then, you know, as time progresses, you know, like all the round McDonald houses, people make quilts, homemade quilts, for those people who are going through such difficult times, and they come into that place and they look at those quilts and they don't feel quite so threatened. So sewing is just such a huge and important part of our culture that may have been kind of been forgotten for a while, and that's why this just touches
And that's
me.
why Cari doesn't know how to sew.
I dress so enough to do a really crude hem and I struggle with the perfection.
You know, I put my foot over by you guys because my foot went to sleep.
Did you need a blanket or something?
No, I'm totally good, but my foot went to sleep, so I just had to straighten that one leg out.
But you know, I think as women, it's our creative selves that we always have to, you know, it could be, you know what I mean, it's sewing or
Like-
knitting or it's just anything, right? That is.
Knitting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like when those women met this summer, because they meet every summer, but not everyone can go. They had stations, like you had to make 3 things. One thing you kept, one thing you gave to someone random, like they got a random pick of it, and then another one, I forgot what else. But what I loved is while they were listening to the talks or watching things, people think it's disrespectful, but I can focus more if I'm doing something. I hate when I'm just sitting there.
Right.
Like it drives me